I'm in my chametz dika Pesach dika kitchen for all those.
What do you got going on with the onions? What do you got going on there, man?
I got to make liver and I got to make cabbage soup. All the good zachens, but I'm gonna pause now and do the daf.
There you go.
What time will it be ready?
Tomorrow
night.
Depends what time I land. Depends what time I land, parents. Maybe I'll see you.
Okay. So tonight
where did we stop last night? We stopped at the Mishna?
Mishna and Chav Ches Amud Beis. Every daf that has issur l'tzamtzem, Akiva, you miss.
I gave up. I'm not being mitzamtzem at all now. Ever since you started posting about not being so stringent and on Pesach, I've given up.
You like that, huh? Anyways. Yeah. Okay, so tonight's a little bit of a break from extremely difficult Gemaras, and it's only quasi-difficult. Tonight's Gemara. Okay, so Zok the Mishna, yeah. Shleisha Achin. Basically, all these next bunch of Mishnayos are all going to be three brothers marrying, and then there's two brothers that are married sisters, and then we will work from there. So Shleisha Achin, you have three brothers, Shnayim nisuin and two brothers married to two sisters. Oy isha bita, or one is married to a mother and one is married to a daughter. Oy isha ubas bita, or one is married to a wife and one is married to a granddaughter. Oy isha ubas bana, or to a woman and her granddaughter from her son. So then you have to do chalitza and you're not do yibum, right? That's your classic case, because there's zakuk to him, right? There's Zika, but the Zika is only the Rabbanan, so therefore you can't do yibum because it's a sister and it's an erva, but you should do chalitza just to make sure that it's okay. Reb Shimon Paiter. Reb Shimon says Pater. They don't need chalitza. We'll see in the Gemara why. Right, so that's the first Machlokes. So it's achas mehen asur olav issur erva. I'm sorry, I said the first one's issur erva. It was not. In this case, it's issur erva. So it's achas mehen asur olav issur erva. If one of these ladies was asur nem issur erva, asur ba umurta ba chaysa. It's asur for her, but it's mutter to take the sister, like we learned, because there's no Zika. Since if one of them is mamish and issur erva, so then there's no Zika, right? So since there's no Zika, you're allowed to take the other one who's not an erva. What happens if it's issur mitzvah, issur kiddushin? Let's say it's only issur mitzvah or issur kiddushin. Chalitza v'lei misyaves, then you need chalitza and not yibum, like we learned, because those are less than an erva. So again, we're not sure what to do with it, so we're not going to allow yibum, but we're going to want to do chalitza in case there is a requirement to do yibum. So then, and we're not allowing it because it's issur d'Rabbanan or it's shnius, whatever it is. So we're just going to do chalitza in order to protect ourselves. Reb Shimon says they're totally potter. So shenemar v'isha elachayza l'sikach l'tzror. You're not allowed to take a isha, a woman, with her, don't take a woman with her sister to make them into a tzror, meaning you can't have two sisters. So when they become tzaros to each other, meaning when these two sisters marry two brothers and the two brothers die, and now both sisters need yibum from one man, that's not lo yehi lecha lekuchen. Then there's no lekuchen at all. There's no lekuchen. Literally means taken, meaning that husband, that third brother does not have any lekuchen afilu ba'achas, and even in one of them. Again, he's learning the pasuk that when two sisters fall to the same person for yibum, they're both out. It doesn't need yibum and doesn't need chalitza. Tanakama doesn't go like that.
First or something. Would that make a difference?
Right now, it's not going to make a difference. Right now it won't make a difference. But yeah, it was yesterday's daf where you sometimes could have that scenario.
Reb Shimon holds Zika's midaraisa. What's he shtelling on Zika for? Why is the pasuk is discussing Zika?
No, he's learning. He's got it's a chiddush the way he's learning the pasuk.
I'm saying, but in his chiddush, he has to be talking about something. What would connect them when you didn't do yibum yet?
It's just that's the way he's learning the taich in the pasuk, that when the sisters are tzaros, then it doesn't go.
But if there's nothing going on before you do yibum, why should they be anything?
No, so that's the thing. So Reb Shimon's going to say if there are two brothers available, this whole Mishnah, I should have pointed that out, is where there's three brothers. Right? I mean, we did point it out. It was the Mishnah, we should have re-pointed out. It's three brothers here. It's not four brothers. If it would be four brothers, Reb Shimon would be maida that you need to do. Then you need to do at least the chalitza, right?
But is it because Zika's midaraisa? I don't understand.
Right?
I always thought everyone held Zika's derabanan.
Zika. I understand why you think Zika here is deraisa?
What the pasuk is obviously saying that there's some connection before they do yibum.
I think only out tzaros.
But they're not tzaros. There's nothing going on before yibum. How are they tzaros to anything?
Right now they're both going to be married. They're both zakuk to the same person.
I understand. So is the Torah talking about Zika when they say you shouldn't do it?
No, but that's what Reb Shimon is saying. But I don't know if that means that Zika's deraisa. It just means they both fell to the same. Okay, I hear what you're saying. Maybe. Not sure. Okay, that's good. I like that. Okay, so let's see back. So I said achas man. Right, so we said if one of them was an issur erva, then it's issur. Then that one is issur for him, but he can marry the other one. What do you need that case for? That was exactly the first case, right? I mean, not the first case, the other Mishna. Right? We already had many times where one of them is an issur erva. So if there's an issur erva, so one you can marry and one you can't marry. One you do yibum to, one you don't do. The one that's an erva you don't do yibum to. The other one you're allowed to. It's not called achos kukasai because she was never allowed to be married to you. So therefore, there's no Zika. So we say the Rav Shimon itzrich. Now we need the second case for Rav Shimon. Because again, so Rav Shimon holds that there's no yibum or chalitza because the two sisters fell to the same man. So since Reb Shimon said that two sisters are not chalitza and not mitzvah, so then ligs are mashum beis achayis da'alma. So then why don't we just say that there's going to end up we should make a gzeira who by stam two sisters, even if there's no erva involved. Right? Maybe you wouldn't allow it either. Kamash Malon, right? The Reb Shimon says that even that Reb Shimon says that the sister who's not an erva, you can't do yibum. Meaning, you would think that maybe Reb Shimon holds that two sisters fall to the same guy, they never have yibum, right? But the chiddush is that when one of them is an erva, so then that's not called two sisters falling to the same guy. Because one sister is an erva, so she didn't fall. She was never eligible to be married to that guy. So therefore, the other fellow is the other woman can do yibum. So the chiddush is according to Reb Shimon. Fine, issur mitzvah. Right, is a nice looking daf right here. Issur, at least the Amud. Issur mitzvah. So what is the issur mitzvah? But Reb Shimon. But didn't Reb Shimon say shtei achayis lo chaltzas v'lo misyamas? Didn't Reb Shimon say that two sisters, right, don't have chalitza and that they're not misyavim, right? So then why do you need chalitza? Meaning since Reb Shimon held in the Mishnah that when it's two sisters that fall to the same fellow, there's no yibum and there's no chalitza, right? So what's going on here, right? So Gemara says no. Gezeira mishum issur mitzvah. The gezeira is that if because of the issur mitzvah. Meaning, if you're going to, in this case, meaning the last case, Reb Shimon doesn't disagree. Meaning, the last case is talking about issur mitzvah, which means shniyas or lavim. There, Reb Shimon is meider, you need chalitza. So the Gemara is asking why. Reb Shimon learned the pasuk that if two sisters fall to the same guy for yibum, they don't need chalitza or yibum. So how come, if it's not an issur erva, right? Then why are they pater? So we say no, it's a gezeira because of issur mitzvah. We're meaning what's going to happen is if you're not going to do chalitza, people are going to say that when the stam and issur mitzvah falls to a man in yibum, they're going to think, oh, you don't have to do yibum, you don't have to do chalitza. And it's not true. You do have to do chalitza. Meaning in your standard case, let's say a guy is married to a wife and then he dies, and then that wife is an issur lav to, let's say it's an amar l'kohen gadol, right? So there you think, oh, they don't need chalitza, they don't need anything. So we were saying, no, you do it, you do need it. So if we're not going to allow chalitza here, so it might be making seder. So I'm going to ask the obvious question. Hatinach ihi achaysim. I would say before that. Hatinach. You want to ask a different question first. Hatinach ihi. Right. That helps with the issur mitzvah. So that one you need to do chalitza too, because everybody's going to think that maybe you wouldn't do chalitza to her if she falls to a brother-in-law who's only an issur mitzvah. But achaysa, ma'ikal mamar. But the sister, nobody's going to say that. Right. They're going to say that. Oh, the sister. There's no. Why didn't this guy? Why wasn't he meyavim this lady? Why didn't he do chalitza to this lady? Right? So they're going to say, oh, must be because two sisters fell to a brother-in-law. Then we don't do chalitza. Nobody's going to get confused with the other sister. So when answer is no, gzeira chaysim mishum lasa dida. The gzeira of the sister, because of the, I don't know how you touch lasa exactly, but because of the confusion.
It says the fate of.
The fate. Okay, I don't know exactly what the right. What does it mean? Rashi says mazel. I guess fate is mazel fate. I guess so, right? Yeah. So meaning, if we're going to allow one sister to not have chalitza, then you're going to end up. Meaning you can basically, it seems like what the Gemara is saying is that you're going to end up mixing them up. How can you have one getting chalitza, one not getting chalitza, right? So therefore we just said you're going to do both. So the Gemara says, well, gabi erva loigas. What about why don't we make the same zera by erva? How come by erva, Reb Shimon says no chalitza, no yibum? Why don't we say no? You got to do chalitza because maybe in a regular scenario, people are going to think that you don't do chalitza, right? So I'm going to answer shani erva the migmar gmirila inchi v'kala isle. Everybody knows when an erva. It's a weird case when a yibum falls to an erva. That's like an odd case, so people talk about it, right? And then they're going to know the reason why she's potter from chalitza is because she's his mother-in-law, she's his granddaughter, or whatever it is, right? But if it's just a mitzvah, meaning the issur mitzvah, if that's what you can call it, then people don't really understand that. So therefore they might get confused. Yeah, fine. Okay, I hope we're not confused. Fine. Zog the Mishna, next case. Shloisha achin, you have again the three brothers, Shnayim nisuin shtei achayos, two brothers married two sisters. Ve'echad mufna, and one of them is single, right? So he's not married at all. Yeah. So meis echad mebali achayos. If then one brother dies, not two, one brother dies. And the one that's not married does mimer. Now again, if there's three brothers, two married, two sisters.
Okay, fine,
one of the ones that married the sisters died, right? And then the single one married her, not married. Sorry, did mimer. If the island remembers, mimer means that we've been touching it as a letter of intent. He said a letter of intent that he's going to do yibum to her. Then after he intended to say he's marrying the first one, which is perfectly legit, right? Because there's no achis kukasai, because the other brother was alive. The other brother that married the other sister is alive, right? But then he died. Then the second brother died. So now what? So now here it is.
We said that's engaged. We said he's like married.
He's engaged, right? So it's an engagement. Then we're going to see on the base exactly what mimer is. But he sort of married or had an intent to marry the first wife, right? And then the second wife, then the second brother died. So now he's got to do. Can he do chalitza? Does he not do chalitza? Does he do yibum? So Beis Shamai ishtai imay. So his wife is with him, meaning the wife he did mimer to stays with him. And the other one doesn't. There's no yibum or chalitza because she's his wife's sister. Meaning basically, Beis Shamai says that we look at mimer like it's a marriage. So therefore, it's your standard case of a wife's sister, which is an erva, falling to a brother-in-law, and then you can't do yibum or chalitza, right? It's very, very, according to Beis Shamai, it's very, very simple. Beis Hillel, no, mitzias ishtay beget. Beis Hillel basically says this guy is the ultimate, he's the ultimate loser, I guess you want to call it.
Even if
one second. Beis Hillel says mitzias ishtay beget uba chalitza. What he does is he has to divorce his wife, but he has to divorce her twice, because again, he had mimer to her. He didn't have a legitimate marriage, he did mimer. So he has to give her a get in case he's married, but he also do chalitza because he didn't get to yibum. The single guy that the single guy that did mimer to the first sister-in-law, he needs to do 2 forms of divorce in case he's married and in case he didn't do yibum. So he needs to do chalitza and he also give a get. Right?
You do chalitza with the second wife?
No, chalitza with the first wife. We're talking about the first wife. His first wife, the first brother's wife.
Reuben's wife. Then Reuben died first, and Shimon
Reuben died first. Yes, for the doctor, we'll do it. Reuben's wife died first. Levi, who was single, went and did mimer to her. So now mimer is a shaila, what mimer is.
Then Shimon died. So according to Beis Shamai, we look at Reuven's wife as if she's Levi's wife finished, and Shimon's wife is added a picture because it's his wife's sister. No chalitza, no yibum. Everybody lives happily ever after, hopefully, because otherwise it gets complicated, right? The problem is that nobody is living happily ever after over here. That's what makes it so complicated, right? Beis Hillel says no. Beis Hillel says the mimer is a shaila, whether it works. So therefore, he has to divorce this one he did mimer to with a standard get in case the mimer is considered marriage. And in case mimer is not considered marriage, he can't marry her because she's the sister achos kukasa. So he's got to do chalitza on her. So she's out. And then the second wife, Shimon's wife, Eishes achiv b'chalitza. And he has to do chalitza on Shimon's wife. Zuhi sham. This is what the Chachamim said. Oiloi al ishtoi va'oiloi al Eishes achiv. Woe is to him for his wife, and woe is to him for his brother's wife, because he's got nothing. He got divorced from everybody. Why does he have to do chalitza with the second wife?
That's what
it's a shiloh, so he doesn't know what to do. What are you saying, Zeb?
I'm saying, why does he have to do chalitza with the second wife? Because
it's achos kukase, which is only a derabana.
One second, but Shammai said that she goes out because she's out.
No, Beis Shamai, she's potter.
Right.
It's his wife's sister. You don't do yibum to a wife. You don't do yibum to a wife's sister. Finished.
So either you got to get.
He's got to do both. According to Beis Hillel, he's got to do both.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Because Beis Hillel doesn't know what to do with mimer.
And didn't we say that with mitzvahs, more mitzvahs? Here we're getting.
We don't have a choice. We don't have a choice.
Didn't we say a few days ago that we want to do, sometimes you won't do yibum to get more mitzvahs? We said a few days ago.
We just don't want to.
You can't mute him, Tzviakov. I'm sorry. You got to mute him yourself.
Yeah. You let these guys out of the house, they just go wild.
Oh. Before Gershi gets back, it's interesting that it calls the brother, the achos, how did it refer to it? Mamish, like the brothers are getting along. It doesn't say one of the brothers died. It said one of the wives' husbands died.
Right, that's true. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, so what's your diak?
Oh, try to get it in before Gershi shows up.
I hear.
It's Yaakov.
Yeah.
What's the pshat in mimer? It sounds like mimer does not, at least according to Beis Shamai, gets you absolutely nowhere, and you get nothing from it.
No, according to Beis Shamai, maybe Beis Hillel, you mean?
I mean Beis Hillel, right?
Yeah,
you get nothing from it. You're doing. You're being a little pregnant. Your mom is going nowhere with your mimer.
Correct. I think that's what he's saying.
So what's the point? According to Beis Hillel, what are you doing?
And I think
you're creating a scenario that you have to give a gap.
Wait a minute. Akiva, you get the yerusha.
You don't get any yerusha, you didn't do yibum.
Right.
No, if you do mimer with her and then
I'm not sure. I don't ever understood. What is the point of mimer anyways? What's the point?
You married her because she's rich and she dies.
Say, what's the point of doing mimer? You got to still do yibum.
No,
we'll see on Amud Beis.
Let's see on Amud Beis. Maybe the Gemara goes through exactly what.
Wait, doesn't it prevent him from going with the other woman if he does?
Yes, that's for sure. I mean, if he wants to chop her, that's what you're saying, doctor. He wants to make sure that he gets her. Once he does mimer, all the other brothers are out. That's
There's
what
no
you're
other
saying.
brothers here. In this case,
what?
Well, whatever.
Yeah, there is.
But she has to agree to it anyways. I mean, you're not supposed to be doing
married. She's married to her sister. He can't marry. He's out.
What? I know, but what happens if his wife dies? Right. So I don't know. You're right.
It's Yaakov. Normally, you have to get let her to agree anyway. So unless you're doing yibum bal karchel, what's the point of doing mimer? She has to agree to mimer.
Right.
You're showing your intent, I guess, to show her that you're more committed.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, yeah, but we'll see on Beis. There might be a reason, but I think the doctor's right that you're doing it to keep the brothers away. If they're all fighting, yeah, it's a wealthy, like Zeb, right? If it's a wealthy, it was a wealthy brother. They're all jumping to get it.
Very interesting family.
That's for sure. Yeah, so let's see. So Zuhi Lamute. So when it says at the end of the Mishna, Zuhi Shamru, right? This is what we mean. So what does that mean? Zuhi. What's it coming to exclude? Lamute after Rabbi Shua. It's coming to exclude the sheet of Rabbi Shua. The lay of Din and Kava say that we don't pass like Rabbi Shua. Eli Ikar Rabbi Gamliel, Ikar Rabbi Lazar, either like Rabbi Gamliel or Rabbi Lazar. This is a Gemara heter. I think we had it once already. The two brothers married two sisters, and one was married. And one was a miyun, well, not miyun, whatever, katana, right? And then the one that was married to the with the legitimate marriage died, and then you have so then they fall in front of the one that has a marriage of the rabbanon. So then remember we had it a couple times where Rabbi Yeshua said that he has to get divorced, right? You have to divorce. He divorced. You do miyun, right? And then that makes the other brother be able, that nullifies the marriage, etc., etc. So whatever it is, so we're saying that we can either go Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Lazar, but we're not going to go like Rabbi Yeshua where it works for both. Fine. So I'm Rabbi Lazar. Now we get into the sugi of Maimah, which is that how far does Beis Shamai take this Maimah? Sounds like from the Mishnah, Beis Shamai considers this guy the legitimate husband of this almana, right? So I'm Rabbi Lazar. Don't say what we just said, that it's kinda a kinyan gomer. That if he wants to get rid of her, then all she would need is a get, like a standard husband or wife. He is not kinda her. And the only reason why we say that he's kinda, meaning it's strong enough to eliminate the tzara, meaning to say that he does not have to, that sister, meaning when the next brother dies, she's out. She doesn't need chalitza, she doesn't need yibum. Meaning the only reason that he says mimer works is in order to pater that second sister-in-law from yibum and chalitza, but it does not mean that they're married. They're not married. I mean, they're married to something, but it's not considered a legitimate marriage.
What does it mean, not a kinyan gomer? I don't understand what that means.
It's not his wife.
So then she's allowed to marry somebody else.
No, it's a kinyan, but what?
Well, what does that mean?
It's somewhere in no man's. Mimer is somewhere in the middle.
I don't understand. It's like being partially pregnant.
Mimer has nothing to do with her marriage.
No, but that's he just divorces her.
Right, but I'm saying Mimer has nothing to do. If he didn't do it, Mimer has nothing to do with her. Mimer has to do with him and the next sister is saying.
Yeah. It's a shaila of how far we take the Mimer. Right?
She lives with somebody else. Is the kid a mamza?
I think it's like she's engaged.
Right. It's like it's a kiddushin. So yeah, I don't remember if
it's not a kiddushin.
Because she felt the yibum.
It's a form of it's something epis.
It's a kiddushin d'Rabbanan. We say that it's kind of her that she's the yavama.
So Gershon, if she lives with somebody else, is the kid a mamza?
No,
Why?
It's allowed.
Didn't we discuss
Until there's yibum, there's nothing.
It's not nothing. She's
No,
now
I didn't mean-
committed.
I
He's
meant-
now committed to her.
I meant kares. Yeah. As far as erva is concerned, she's not an ish.
Right.
She's a yavama. So there's allowed. So she can't marry anyone else, but it doesn't make a mamzer.
So what is the kid?
There is no kid.
The kid is from wedlock,
Apostle.
whatever you call it. No, is it apostle even?
Yeah, if she marries someone else, it's a kid of a chayvelav. Yeah, I'll say sameis.
Yeah, out the yibum, not out the tzaros.
Sorry, not apostle, a pugum, whatever that means. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see weiter. So Amar. Okay, so that's sheet of Rebbe Lazar that it's not a legitimate mamar. So Amar of Avin Afanan Nami Tanina. We can learn like this from our Mishna. Beis Shamai Yakaimu. We said that if two brothers marry two sisters, so they have to do chalitza, not yibum, right? What we said, the Beis Shamai says that if they did decide to marry, Yakaimu, then Yakaimu. I'm sorry, Yakaimu, if they did, then they can stay married. They don't have to get divorced. So Yakaimu in lechatchila lo, it's mashma. Only if these two brothers didn't listen or before they even asked the shaila went and married and did yibum to these sisters, but lechatchila they're not allowed to. Now, why not? There's a shtick to do according to this. And if you say that mamar according to Beis Shamai, mamish makes a legitimate kinyan. So then so then let one of them do mamar and be kind to her. Right? Now you're going to say, what do you mean? But it's issur. How can he do yibum? Right? How can you go do yibum? It's issur. There's two sisters here. So what it means is that he's not, it's only an issur to sleep with them. To do mamar is not an issur. So all we're saying is do mamar. This is a mamish a shtick. Right? What he's doing, he says, do mamar. Once he does mamar, so then the other one has nothing to do with him. Then let the other brother, and again, let's use the names. Reuven and Shimon, right? So they die. And then you have two, and we're going back with the original case in the parak, which is there's two brothers. So what you can do is have brother, Levi, do mamar, not sleep with her, just do mamar, right? Then that frees up the other wife and let Levi Yehuda do mamar to the other one, right? And then they're both married to each other, and then you can go have yibum, right? So why don't you do that?
But see, didn't we say as far as before regarding issur falling? Once issur falls on you, it's issur forever.
Once the issur falls on you, it's forever. Yeah. So
how would you be able to be daicha with mamar? Issur already came. There's at least on one of them. On one of them, you definitely can't do it because you can't be daicha the issur that's already fallen on her. It seems like that's where everyone agreed to. That the second one for sure is issur.
But maybe if you do this, then that's not issur.
How? The issur already was calling her. It seems like once the issur is chal, you can't be doicha the issur. It seems like
no, but if you could do mamar, then the issur is not chal. If you could do mamar, the issur is not chal.
But it already happened, the issur. What does that mean?
No, but if you've had this shtick, then you never. I mean, it's the issur is only chal when you don't have a choice in the matter, right? But here
the issur was already chal. I don't. You can't go back.
It's only chal because you didn't have this shtick. Once you decide to implement this shtick, then it's not an issur because there is a way to do it. No, I don't know.
Let's do a couple of points.
What are you saying?
Let's go weiter.
Well,
we'll have an answer.
No, but that's okay. I don't know if that's. You see the problem. Okay, whatever. It's all these questions are so what do you call it? Are so fine that it's yeah. But anyway, so Tosfos says, what about the mitzvah? Beitul mitzvah's yibum, right? Then he said, okay, Tosfos is not. You're not going to be chash for that. Either way. So the Gemara is saying, so must be. So what's the Gemara's point? The Gemara's point is that since it didn't say to do this shtick of doing the mamar and then to do this do mimer, each one do mimer, and then they could do yibum. Since it didn't do that, must be that mimer is not legitimate enough to implement this. Right? So the Gemara says, if that's the case, okay. So what are you saying? That it's not a kinyan gomer, it's doiche. So elamai, doiche dechia gemura. What it does is it pushes off it pushes off a legitimate pushing off. What does that mean? That's enough that the other sister is not going to get yibum. So then zeh yasa maimer v'yitcha. Right? Then what should happen is this one should do maimer and push off. Zeh yasa maimer v'yitcha. And this one should do maimer v'yitcha. Right? But you're not doing that. Elamayas kolam. We're going to say maimer de tera dachi. That what you're doing is you're pushing off a maimer of heter. The issur loy dachi. But a mimer cannot push off issur, meaning mimer only works. Meaning, why are you going to say that? Why don't you just say each one does mimer and pushes off the other one? Elamai, you're not going to say that because mimer only works when you're allowed to marry the woman. I don't know if doctor, I'm not so sure if that's what Akiva was asking, but I hear maybe that answers Akiva's question, right? So mimer only works. The Gemara is saying, no, what are you going to say? That mimer only works when a person can halachically marry the sister-in-law, and he's putting out there that he's going to marry her. But you cannot use mimer when it's issur to marry her. Right? Mimer will not work. Right. So hachanami, mimer, afilu lamandam mimer koina kinyan. Even you're going to say like Beis Shamai, that Beis Shamai holds that mimer is koina kinyan gomer. Mimer de teira. It's only going to work for mimer of heter, the issur loy koni. It's not going to work for issur. So in our Mishna, when there's three brothers, not four brothers, so when that first brother Reuven dies and Levi marries Reuven's almana, that's a legitimate relationship because Shimon didn't die yet. So therefore, mimer works. But if it was not a legitimate, where it would be two brothers with two sisters and both brothers die, then mimer won't work. L'chayra, you're right, doctor. That l'chayra answers Akiva's question. Fine. Rav Ashi, now we have the same Gemara, but from the opposite direction. Rav Ashi masni hachi. Rav Ashi says this Gemara a little differently. Amar Rav Elazar, lo tema mimer leBeis Shamai dachi dechia gemura. Don't say that according to Beis Shamai it's a dechia, right? Again, the first version of the Gemara was that Beis Shamai was saying kinyan gomer. Here we're saying don't say that according to Beis Shamai it's dachi a legitimate dechia, v'tzaros chalitza nami loy, and therefore the co-wife also doesn't need chalitza. No, what it is, it pushes it off, but there's still a little bit left. There's still a little bit of Zika, and therefore she's going to need chalitza. Right? So we also learn like that there's going to need chalitza because Beis Shamai Yekaimu. Right? Again, in the first Mishna of this parak, two brothers married two sisters and they both died. They're supposed to do chalitza and not yibum, but if they got married, so then Beis Shamai says you can be mekayim. Yekaimu in lechatchila loy. It's mashma that they can, if they got married, it's fine, but not lechatchila. But if you say the mimer to Beis Shamai, when one brother does mimer, it pushes off the other one totally. And then each one should do mimer and be daicha, right? And then you're gonna allow yibum. So it must be since they don't allow a lechatchila, must be so this does not work. So then the Gemara asks, but the Mishna says, Beis Shamai says that the wife is considered, now back to our case where it's the one brother who first does mimer to Reuven's wife and then Shimon's wife, then Shimon dies. So Beis Shamai ishtay imay v'halazu teitze mishum achos isha, right? So therefore, what does that tell you? So, and you don't even need chalitza. So what's a pshat in that? That sounds like that it's not. It's legitimate. El yevama the chazi lekulu. So we're going to say that a yevama that's chazi to everybody, right? Meaning you can do yibum, you can do chalitza, chazi lemitzasa. So then you can also have mimer. Yevama the loy chazi lekulu, but a yevama is that you can't possibly do bia. You can't possibly do bia, which is the ma'aseh, and then loy chazi lemitzasa. Then you can't even do mimer either, right? So basically, what it's saying, similar to what we left over the other Gemara, is that you can only do mimer on a woman who you could potentially have done yibum to, but you're first doing mimer. But a woman that you cannot do yibum to, then mimer does not work. That's the main thing to come out from this Gemara, that mimer only would work for those that could potentially do yibum, and that's it. Fine. Now the Gemara asks a shaila about mimer. So boy Rab, mimer le Beis Shamai, the nisuin issur or erva issur. So obviously Beis Shamai considers mimer to be something, right? Does it make nisuin, right? Or erva issur, or does it make erva, right? Does is it by meaning which stage of marriage does this make? Does it make the fully married or what we call engaged? Right? How strong is mimer? So what's the halacha? Why do you care about this? If it's because to yarshin her if she dies, right? To inherit her, or to become tamei to her if he's a kohen, right? And then she dies, can he go to the funeral? Or if she makes a neder, can this person who did mimer to her be made for the neder, annul it? Hashta. If you're going to say that when somebody does a legitimate erusin, which is what we call engaged, ishtoi arusa, loy einin, he does not become an einin, and if he's a kohen, he cannot become tamidor. And if she dies, loy einenes. I'm sorry, if he dies, she does not become an einin, but loy metamas loy, and she can't become tamid to him. And mesa eina yarsha. And if she dies, he doesn't yarshin her, right? Mace who goiva ksubas, and if he dies, she gets her ksuba money. She gets the 200 zuz. So then avad ba maimer mibai, meaning if they're engaged, it's not considered it's not considered a legitimate wife. So maimer definitely is not going to be considered a legitimate wife. Now, it's just tam agav. What does it mean that a wife can't become tamei to her for all the kehanim out here, right? Well, a wife does not have a kohen. A female kohen can become tamei, right? So what's the Gemara saying? She can't become tamei to him if he dies. Why not? Right? So what? So Rashi has a few different pshatim there, right? What does Rashi say? Rashi says, which means she doesn't have to be busy. Normally, a spouse has to be busy with the funeral. It doesn't mean the actual come tummy. That's no problem. She doesn't have to actually be involved with the funeral. And then Rashi says his own pshat is that Yidden try not to become tummy, but this would not be a reason for this. You would become tummy either way. So Gemara is saying, so it can't be for any of these things, because if somebody's legitimately engaged, is not considered a spouse. So for Maimer, it's definitely not. So Gemara says, it's for Masira l'chuppa to be handed over to the chuppa. Meaning, what happens normally is once you do Maimer, then do you need chuppa before Bia or not? So nisuin isa v'lay by Masira l'chuppa. If you do nisuin, then you don't need chuppa. Chuppa is normally not necessary if you already do nisuin, right? Meaning if he's ma'anis, or if he forces her to do yibum, so then you don't need chuppa. So maybe it's just erisin ubay masira l'chuppa, and then you're going to need chuppa first and then bia.
What about if you have no mimer? Would there be a din of Masir l'chuppa? How would you be able to do be about yibum al karcha in a case where let's say you have no mimer?
Right.
Didn't we say before you could do be about karcha and it could still be kinda?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Yeah.
So I mean, as Rochelle, if you don't have Masir l'chuppa, the Gemara's mashma, you would need Masir l'chuppa.
Oh, so let's see.
Even with mimer.
Right. So let's see, because the Gemara is going to say the order. So Amralei. Hashta loy avad, so Gemara asks, Hashta loy avad b'maimer ksiv yivama yavaleh bal karcha, right? If it said yivama yavaleh means that you make her into a yivama bal karcha avad b'maimer mibai, right? Then avad b'maimer, there's that a shaila for sure you could do it without chuppa. So then he answers, Amalei shani omer kala isa maimer b'yivimtai. No, somebody does mimer. So what happens is the Yibum is the Zika's yibum goes away and it becomes like a regular erison, right? Meaning, so normally a regular Yevama who just goes and sleeps with her, so then they don't need chuppa. But somebody does mimer, now he's gonna need chuppa because now he gets downgraded from your standard Yevama to a regular engagement. So the bottom line, what's it in? Is mimer considered like engaged or married? So Tashema, Shemeres Yavam. So a woman it's called a Shemeres Yavam, she's waiting for yibum, right? So Shemeres Yavam, Bein Yavam Echad, Bein Shnei Yavim, whether she's waiting for one brother-in-law or she's waiting for two brothers-in-law, right? So now what happens if she makes a neder? So are these people strong enough of a relationship to her to make for the neder? So Rabbi Eliezer says the Yavam can be made for the neder. Like it's almost like he's the husband. Rabbi Yeshua says La'echad v'lo l'shnayim. Right? If she has one brother-in-law, then he could be made for the neder. Two can't. Rabbi Kiva, he can't do not one, and he can't not two. He can't do either one. And we discussed Rabbi Kiva Savar ain't Zika. Rabbi Kiva says there's no Zika, so therefore that one can't do anything. He can't be made for the neder because there's no connection until they actually get married. Rabbi Yeshua l'chad yesh Zika, l'trei ain't Zika. He says one has Zika, two don't have Zika. But according to Rabbi Eliezer, I'm sorry, Nehi Nami the Kasava Yesh Zika, granted he holds Yesh Zika, so Bishlam Lachad Mefer. So one could do Hafara, right? El Litrei Amai. So then to two, how can either one of them be made for the neder? Right? They have to do it together. If you hold Zikas, and then they both have to be made for the not one. It's talking about where they did mimer. One of them did mimer. And therefore, he can be made for the neder. Beis Shamai, he the Amar, mimer, kind of kinyan gomer. And it's going according to Beis Shamai, who says it's kind of a kinyan gomer. So therefore, what? So nisuin issur. So if you say it mamash makes a marriage, mishum hachi made for that's why you can be made for the neder. But if you say that it only makes engagement, heichi matzi mefer, how can you be made for? But tanan naira hamurasa aviu bailam afir nederah. A naira hamurasa, naira who's engaged needs a father and a husband. It can't just be the husband, right, or the potential husband. So it must be that mimer does make nisuin. So Gemara says not a proof. My mefer b'shutfis. No, mefer means b'shutfis, so it's not a raya. Meaning you have to do with the father and the husband, just like engagement. Okay, so
the case has to be with a naira,
as opposed to what? No, it's
older. What happens if she's older?
Yeah, I think. So
if she's older, her father has something.
I'm a minute late for the next year, but I don't know. I understood as anybody engaged, right? Okay, so but according to Rebbe Lazar, who holds that mimer to Beis Shamai is not kinda, all it does is that makes a connection that it pushes off the other wife. Amai mefer b'shutfis, right? Why is he even allowed to do it b'shutfis? He's not even a player yet. It's not really a marriage. When I said that he's not kinda, right, that mimer is not kinda, that's only to push off the tzara, the loy sagila begita. Meaning he's saying that it's not enough that to have a get. Chalitza, she's also going to need chalitza. But is it strong enough connection to make the hafaras nedarim? No, that doesn't work, right? So, no, I'm sorry, I said the opposite. It does work. It does. It will. With the father, it will allow it. Meaning, granted. He said when he's kinda, it's to push off the tzara, right? And meaning that it's not enough with the get, you also need chalitza. But to be made for the neder, right? To be made for the neder, did he say no? Meaning there's three issues here. There's mimer doesn't make a legitimate marriage. Does mimer just push off the other wife? Or does mimer make that you can be mevatel in the dar? So he's saying no, it could be mevatel the dar. That's one teretz. Viva Yisema, Amar lach Rebbe Lazar. Rebbe Lazar can say Rav Nachman by Yitzchak. According to Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, right? He says that it's a kinyan gomer. Mi nicha does everything make sense? Mikatani, does it say yofeiru, which means plural, Yofer katani. It means that he can, right? Ella. So how is it only one? What happened was that they went to Beis Din. They said, Beis Din said, hey, listen, you got to marry the sister-in-law, and meanwhile you have to feed her. And so therefore what? So now that he has to feed her, so Pinchas, the Amar of Pinchas, Mishmei the Rava, Kala nederes al das pailehi nederes. Whoever makes a neder is making a neder on the das of her husband, meaning who feeds her. So since this fellow feeds her, right? When somebody gets engaged and they make a marriage date, and for whatever reason they push off the wedding, that fellow has to continue feeding the wife, not continue or start feeding the wife. So therefore that gives him the right to be made for the neder. So too here, since Beis Din said that this fellow is going to have to do yibum or do something, so therefore he has to feed her. Okay, I'm sorry if we're going a little fast.
9:20.
Fine. All right. A good night, everybody.
Okay.
All right. Parrot, so you're going to work this out here?
Good
night.
Same channel?
Yeah. No, different channel.
Different channel. You got it. Yeah.
Okay.